Hey everybody, welcome to Indie Games Level Up. I'm your host Phil Lubensky. We're in Vancouver's Gastown district, right next to Imaginary Games headquarters. I'm gonna go talk with them about their dark and whimsical mobile card game, Afterland. So let me give you a rundown of the game before we go to the interview. Afterland is a free-to-play card game on mobile. The world of the game is described as a Gothic fairy tale. Think A Nightmare Before Christmas meets Magic the Gathering. A lot of the game's appeal is in its unique hand-painted art style, featuring a cast of dark and whimsical characters. Let's go to the interview and find out a little bit more about this game. So hey everybody, I'm sitting here with Chris Powell, who's a co-founder and game designer at Imaginary Games. Chris, welcome.
Thanks.
And thanks for having me. So unlike a lot of people that we've interviewed, you didn't start your background in a AAA studio.
My first degree in university has influenced the game making quite a bit, and that was a degree in environmental architecture. I would be part of a team that would make parks and different types of outdoor space.
That's cool.
And those things needed to service the community around them. So that's something that I'm able to bring to game design. The company that we have today started when Elin, my co-founder, came on board and brought her artistic sensibilities, and we found a new direction.
Chris was very interested in card games as a system. Card games to collect cards, beautiful art, if it's like a perfect fit. I must say that I am more into a little bit more lighter themes, while Chris is more into a little bit darker themes, and that's where we meet somewhere, where our characters are often, it's something light with them, but they're also bizarre or a little bit gothic. When I was a kid, I loved playing games. I saved my money, I bought a Game Boy, I loved my Game Boy, and then I had a break from games for quite some time. I didn't feel like there were any games made for me as a target.
Okay.
And it was actually first when I discovered games on phone and on tablets that I felt like, okay, it's not quite there yet, but I can see potential. One thing that I'm really caring about is how the portraitations of the characters in the game, for example, that I want to steer away from everything that's too stereotypical, and that's for everything. It's not just from a female perspective, it's also how we portrait guys. Games is also an art form, and to treat games as self-expression but also a product, it's a fine balance, because you don't want to be generic, that's the last thing you want to be, but you don't want also to just think about yourself. It's not just like a self-expression medium.
You begin the game with a mystery to solve. You arrive in Afterland after drinking one of 3 poisons. You discover that there's been a disappearance of a white rabbit. In Afterland, the white and the black rabbits represent a balance between darkness and light. And so with the white rabbit going missing, balance has been upset. So you need to light the path for all of these lost souls wandering around and lead them towards the light. By doing that, you get to the core mechanic of the game, which is assembling a deck of cards with the most symbiotic types of combinations, and a few different faction types, card types, and there's some pretty awesome creature cards as well. There's 3 factions that we have, and that's Misery, Mischief, and Mayhem. And so the art style for each faction is significantly different and tailored to a specific player type. For example, within the faction that we call Mischief, where the characters are a little bit endearing, flawed, a little bit take the role of circus clowns or, the entertainment. Within that faction, there's a family called the Bernies. They look a little bit like teddy bears who live in a forest, and yet they've been responsible for a little bit of mischief, and they've ultimately burned their forest down. So they then have the power or the ability of fire. And so in the game, you visually get to see the Bernie bears shoot out a blast of fire. In terms of making the genre more accessible and inclusive, We have spent a lot of care with the user interface. What we needed to do was take everything away that we didn't need. And we were left with the core elements and a core loop that creates the experience. And then we would add things back one at a time that would be designed specifically to improve the experience for the target.
And what we try to do is hopefully something that's very integrated in players' life, and we hope that people will play our game several times per day, and we will launch new cards, new families, new characters, hopefully for a very, very long time.
So thanks a lot, Elin, for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
For more info on the game, go to facebook.com/imaginarygames. Indie Games Level Up is produced by Handmade. Handmade creates compelling live action and animation, including video game trailers, commercials, and this web series. To find out more, visit handmadecreative.ca. This episode is sponsored by the Canada Media Fund. Since 2010, they've invested over $50 million in Canadian indie game studios. The Canada Media Fund is proud to help indie games level up, explore innovation and creativity in indie games.